Live from Orlando, Florida, you're now listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Orlando Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the OZone Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings and part of the Basketball Podcast Network. We're your hosts, Al, myself, Anthony. Today is August 12th, Friday. Sorry for missing last week. We decided to take a little break because there was a whole lot going on, but we definitely have a lot to talk about in this episode. And joining us today, one of our Patreon members, Dylan Holden. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to today's show.
Yeah, definitely excited to have you on. In today's episode, we are going to talk a little bit about, the all the talk and the commotion and some of the things that went viral with Paolo and some of his pro-am games. We're going to jump into that. We're going to also talk about some comments that Jonathan Isaac had, and then Magic already dealing with injuries. But before we get into it, definitely want to give a shout out to our Patreons, Blake, WP Creates, Court Cousins, Steven, Danimal, Casey Wood, Fins Fan for Life, Michael Martin, Jamel, Mr. Mikey, Zico, Yadi, Eric, and our man Dylan. So really excited that we're able to get you on, Dylan, because you're part of our HQ community, part of our Patreon, and we definitely enjoy talking basketball with you. And one of the things that we had just posted recently on our social media is kind of talking about who our favorite Magic players were. Not really talking about ranking wise of who the best player to ever play for the Magic was, but really deep diving into who we really liked as Magic players. And so my question to you, Dylan, very first and foremost, who would you say, and I want this to kind of be a little like kind of outlandish in a sense, not talking Penny Hardaway, not talking Dwight Howard or Tracy McGrady, but who would you say is the most random favorite player that you've had for the Orlando Magic?
Random favorite player.
Random favorite.
I would have to go with Rafer Alston.
That's a great choice. That was also one of mine. Why Rafer?
Good one.
He basically saved us during the 2009 season when Jameer went down. I had no expectations for Rafer when he came in. I basically thought we were in big trouble, I think, like most of the fan base when Jameer went down. And he came in and not only played well, but basically took us all the way to the finals. So, along with Dwight and the crew, of course. But
Skip to my Lou. Definitely one of my favorite players as well. What I loved about Skip is that, right before, if you remember, during that time period, Jameer Nelson went down. The Magic were playing really good basketball. We're just like, man, what are we going to do? That's it. The season's over. You don't have Jameer Nelson to kind of run this team. And you remember at the time, we also had Anthony Johnson. We're just like, that's not the move. And then we get an announcement that Otis Smith, he ended up signing Tyronn Lue. And we're just like, okay. All right, so a little improvements, but Tyronn Lue still isn't that guy. And when they announced that we got Skip, we're talking about, and one mixtape was hot at the time. Everyone's all into Hot Sauce and Spider and the Professor, and you're just kind of like, and one. We knew a little bit about Skip through his time in Houston, and we knew that he was a baller, but we really didn't know. And I think that if it wasn't for him, and people still have that debate now, although Skip still had a majority of the minutes played in that finals, you still kind of wish that, Jameer Nelson wasn't a part of the mix at all. And you really hope that everything was kind of thrown in for Rafer. And the dynamic changed a little bit when he came back, but definitely one of my favorite players as well. I still remember when against a Celtics series, he slapped Eddie House across the head when he turned around.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, definitely a favorite moment for sure. What about you, Al?
So just one, right?
Yeah, just one.
Oh man, I have three names that come to mind that are kind of random and like why, but I would have to say Michael Petras. It's a guy that for me was a dude that I enjoyed playing for the Magic. Dude brought it every night.
Air France.
That was a guy, and again, he was with that team with Vince. So again, a memorable team for the Magic, right? Making that run in the playoffs. But he was a guy that I just enjoyed watching. Like this dude brought every night, hit his shots, play solid defense, fit the culture in Orlando at that time. You know, that 3-and-D type of team that we were going with. So that was a guy for me that to this day I hope to see him at Amway one of these days as a random guest. Because again, just a great culture guy in Orlando at that time.
Yeah. So on my list that I had posted, I added Rafer Alston. So I'm gonna give you two names, and these names didn't make my top 10. But since you already mentioned Dylan Rafer, I'm gonna kind of skip on Rafer. There's two people that I would add. The very first one is Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes, when we had him on the Orlando Magic, I enjoyed this man on my team so much, just because it was a very odd pick. And the reason why I say that is because, Matt Barnes was kind of known as the troublemaker, the bad boy, and it was outside the characteristics of players that the Orlando Magic, had on the team. We always went after the great character, cookie cutter,
Disney image.
Yeah. And this was the one guy that had a bunch of tattoos and he just had an attitude and a swagger about him that I really, really liked. And you remember the going back and forth with Kobe Bryant. This man wasn't afraid of anybody. So although it was a very minimal time frame, and I would never invest in a Matt Barnes Orlando Magic jersey, he is definitely one of my favorite players. And then another one would be Carlos Arroyo, a Puerto Rican background, Puerto Rican player. When we ended up getting him on the Orlando Magic, the Puerto Rican community in Orlando went bananas. Like everything was just crazy. You saw Puerto Rican flags at the Amway Center, and the community was really, really hot around Carlos Arroyo. And this was a time where, sponsored by M1, dude was doing crazy crossovers and passes. Like he was a walking highlight reel. Definitely a lot of fun. So those two would be the ones that I would add.
Don't forget about Marcin Gortat too. We forget about him a lot, but if it wasn't for him backing up the white, we would have lost some of them games that we won, especially in the playoffs. Marcin, he was an unsung hero himself, so he's definitely an honorable mention.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys are watching on YouTube, definitely add in the comments who you think is your outlandish favorite pick. And if you're listening, in the car with the podcast, send us a message. I definitely want to hear, because I can only imagine the names that will be thrown out when it comes to this category. Kind of transitioning now into the Pro-Am. So first and foremost, we're talking about the crossover. So Paolo played on the same team. I'm a little disappointed, if I may say so myself. I'm a little disappointed at the fact that in the crossover, it was announced that Paolo will be playing, and it just so happened that they decided it would be a great idea to put Paolo and Chet on the same team. I really wish and I really hoped that we were going to see them play against each other. I think there was a little politics behind that. There had to have been some type of politics behind that to make sure that they were on the same roster together. But what did you guys think of that game? I know, Al, you weren't able to watch the game, but we all saw the highlights. Dylan, I'm going to throw it to you first. What were your thoughts on Paolo dropping 50 in the crossover?
I definitely watched the game, and him dropping 50, I was holding on to every bucket like most Magic fans. When I saw him hit them two deep threes, I was about ready to run out the house, because it was like he almost shot him from half court and they hit nothing but net. Like you, Anthony, I wish he would have played against Chet. I think Chet would have been a little nervous if he had to go against Paolo, because I think Paolo would have outshined him. But Paolo looked like a man out there playing against high schoolers. I mean, they couldn't stop this guy. This guy was passing the ball and shooting the ball, and it was incredible, really. It's a player that we haven't had in over a decade. So it was great for Magic fans to see. Of course, we overreacted a little bit, probably, because, those guys aren't, up to his level. But who cares, man? It's August. Let us overreact.
What about you, Al?
I mean, the one thing that jumps at me, so as you mentioned, I couldn't watch the game live as it happened, but I kept seeing Twitter going crazy when the game ended, and then watched all the highlights. But I will say, for me, what jumped at me was the simple fact that we've heard the comparisons to Carmelo a little bit. We've heard like hey, this is a little Jason Tatum to him. Most recently, a little LeBron to him. And in this game, you can see kind of how all those things can be true. It just truly depends where he takes his game next, right? The next 2-3 years. Can he get stronger? Can he get faster? Can he shoot from three better? But man, this dude reminded me a lot of Carmelo Anthony. Like he was hitting threes, mid range, attacking the hoop, dunking on people. So he has the whole package. And that was what we heard in the draft coming in, right? Like this dude can score. If you want the best scorer today in the NBA, that would be Paolo. So I can now see it come to fruition. The competition, not the best, but forget about that. I'm just talking about his arsenal of offensive moves that he has. It's incredible. So for me, that was the biggest thing. Like, not so much the points that he scored, but more like how he got it done. It wasn't just simply dunking all game long or hitting threes all game long. He gave it to you every single way possible.
I don't know
Yeah,
how you guys felt, but he looked like a leader out there to me.
yeah.
I mean, he
And
definitely that you could tell that was definitely his team, and he was
what
in Seattle. So
what makes it so exhibition game pro am, we know what we're gonna get when it comes to these NBA players kind of taking over the pro am. We know that they're gonna have the ball majority of the time, but literally the game was either Chet had the ball, Paolo had the ball, and they both contributed pretty evenly in the sense where shot attempts or shot creation, whatever case may be. Paulo definitely had the better game. He clearly outshined Chet. So that was the first and foremost thing that really stood out to me. The other thing is when Paulo plays, it really looks like he's not even trying hard. Like he really looks, if it wasn't for his sweating condition, the man would not drop a sweat playing basketball because he does it effortlessly. It doesn't look like he's trying hard. It doesn't look like he's playing hard, which is no disrespect at all. And I'm not really sure what I'm really expecting in a sense of what I would like to see him try because he's playing good basketball, but it looks so easy to him. And I think that, having a player like that that's so talented that almost looks like he's bored out there is something that we haven't seen since Tracy McGrady. It's one of the big drawbacks that people didn't like about T-Mac. But I think that overall, if you're looking at a player that can be polarizing, Paolo is that guy right now. If we're just talking about like from the rookie class, he is that guy. The man drops 50 points and his name goes viral. His name is trending. He is someone that grabs attention and people are looking at him like, man, what were these other teams thinking? How was Paolo not the number one consensus in this draft? Like how are people not seeing this before? And why is it that we're seeing it now? Because now we're looking at him and those Carlo Boozer comps,
totally off,
the
totally
Julius
Randle.
Randle comps, the Michael Beasley
totally off.
comps. It's kind of like, okay, so now we're really not seeing that. Now we're kind of seeing a LeBron Melo-esque type of player. And it's like, dude, y'all weren't watching college? Like, did we not look at the highlights? Like, he's not doing anything different than he did before, but now it's more eyes are on him. There's more attention. And I think that it was a moment where, he can say, like, yo, this is me, and this is why I'm the number one pick in the draft.
And to be honest, I think the only reason most Magic fans probably didn't want Paulo, because I know, like myself, I wrote him off because of his defense. We heard pre-draft that his defense really wasn't up to par. A lot of GMs were worried about it, and we all know that Jeff and John love defense. I mean, that's the side of the ball you have to play for them, or you're not coming to this team. Um, Thankfully, they did choose Paulo, and it looks like that his defensive prowess is a lot better than he was getting credit for. And thankfully, Jeff and John knew that. I mean, look how the kid passes the ball alone. I mean, his passing is a highlight reel all unto itself. And that's not even including his scoring. So,
Yeah, and I think that that's what makes him so dangerous is that he can get a bucket on you, but you also have to respect his playmaking. So what that does is that it makes him unpredictable. Offensively, you don't know what he's going to do because he can do it all. He can shoot, he can penetrate, he can pass, he can create for himself. And I think that that's one of the elements that we're going to see that people are going to be scared of. And I think that that's the part that is exciting. And then kind of fast forwarding to the Zeke end. So when it comes to another pro-am, the biggest thing that we saw is Paolo going against Murray, which I think is pretty unique because these are guys that are from the same area. Originally, when I saw the crossover teams, I thought they were going to be on the same team together, but apparently, you know, we know that the Seattle community is the Seattle basketball community is a very close community, and they've known each other for a very, very long time. And there was some beef, there was some tension, some issues between Murray and Paolo Banchero. And we know that it's a little lopsided because from the game, it kind of left the game and then kind of went a little personal. And, you know, it got to a moment that we're able to, you know, eat popcorn, talk about it. And now there's news cycles, like so much so that it's the off season, no basketball happening. And we're talking about ESPN is talking about this beef. We're talking about Fox Sports is talking about this beef. Ow, make some sense. I know that we kind of have a biased perspective, but was Murray kind of taking it a little more personal than he should be?
I think he took it way too far, right? So if you see the highlights, especially I mean, yeah, it was a good play, whatever. But when he throws the ball at Paolo or at whatever it was, the sidelines, that was kind of uncalled for me to begin with. But then you watch the videos after the fact of what he was doing to other participants of the game, you know, bouncing the ball off their heads and all this crap. But even to the point that this dude goes after the game and unfollows Paolo on Instagram. And that's kind of what caught Paolo by surprise. Like, wait, like, really? It's that serious? You're coming to Instagram, unfollowing me? And then he goes on this rant about how he was playing the first draft pick card in the game and this is and that. To me, it's just funny how this dude has been in the league 5 years. He gets traded. We haven't really heard much about him. All that we've heard is that he was a good talent, good kid, you know, getting better and better. And now he comes to Atlanta, and all of a sudden, this offseason alone, we cannot stop talking about this guy. And now he does this. So it's kind of weird. I don't know what his card is, what his angle is, but it's surprising that a rookie would get to your skin in the way that Paolo did. Oh, and by the way, Paolo dropped 47 in this game. So it's not like Paolo scored 15 and struggled the whole night. No. He got you buckets. He lost the game. Okay, he can do his talking because of that. But again, I did think he took it way too personal. I think he's trying to be the face of Seattle, Murray, that is. And Paolo is a threat to him. So I think that's kind of where all this comes from. But if you ask me, he took it way too far. A lot of the things that he said and did were uncalled for, but it is what it is. What about you, Dylan? What was your take on the whole thing?
Sounds like to me, Paolo showed him up in his backyard, and I don't think he liked that too much. And also, I think he was trying to punk him a little bit. You know, you're the new kid on the block. You haven't done anything yet. I'm here. I'm established. And you know, Paolo just doesn't care. He's gonna dominate you and talk trash all at the same time. You know, for us Magic fans, you know, we're craving that. We haven't had it in over a decade. So it was good to see, and I just feel like uh, too, if the Spurs are getting rid of you, that's not a good sign for you. They're one of the best organizations in sports, and they said, you know what, we're going to let you go for a bag of cookies because we want to tank this year for this kid coming out, Wembenyama, I believe that's the correct pronunciation. So I think he's got more things to worry about than Paulo. I think Paulo should be a little lower on his scale. And the Instagram thing, I mean, you know, they're young, so it is what it is. Instagram is Instagram. But Paulo's going to do his thing for sure.
It's a weird dynamic just because Deontay he's what? He's 25. You know, Paolo is barely 19. And, you know, so on social media, we were able to hear a little bit of what Murray was saying when he got out of the game, going towards, you know, closer to the end, and him saying that, you know, Paolo's a little boy, that it's a big man's league. He said it like numerous times. So you can kind of hear that, you know, Murray had a lot of backup because the whole game they were just trying to talk smack to Paolo, right?
Paolo's 10 times bigger than Murray, though. That's the funny thing. Like, how can you call him a little boy and he's bigger than you?
So that's the first fact, right? Size wise, come on, my guy is like touching 7 foot, like 250 pounds coming into the NBA. All right, first and foremost. Second, the man hasn't been in the NBA. Like, he just got drafted, never played an NBA game. The only experience he got in professional basketball is literally summer league. That's it. So the fact that we're talking all this smack to a 19-year-old kid is wild to me. Wild. Because Al, you brought up a really good point. San Antonio Murray, we didn't hear nothing. Nothing. Off season, nothing. Pro-Am, nothing. And then out of nowhere, he gets traded to Atlanta. Massive amount of confidence. I get playing with Trey Young, John Collins. I get that you got that confidence because Atlanta's supposed to be a team in the East that's supposed to make a lot of noise. I get that you get that confidence. And I get that he didn't play for a team prior to that he was able to have that confidence. I get it. At the same time, I think we need to relax.
I mean, if he was that guy, don't we all think that Popovich would have kept him? If he was that guy that he's bumping his gums about being, do we really think Greg Popovich would have let him go to Atlanta? I don't think so. I doubt that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, if you look into I started looking to his name a little more after this whole beef started, and you can see a lot of talk in social media around Murray and the reason why the Spurs let him go. And immaturity was a topic that kept coming up. How they didn't trust him as the leader on the team, how he was drafted young. They kind of knew about it, but then as he got older, it continued. So I think you can see it clearly in a situation like this. I mean, you're an NBA All-Star, you finally make it. You do get traded to a better team that has better chances to win than the Spurs do this season coming up. And again, you're acting kind of foolish all off season long so far in your first off season in a bigger market. It says a lot about you. I mean, and again, if you want to be the face of Seattle, you don't lead this way. You should be leading the other way around. You should be welcoming Paolo. You should be kind of, again, I get the heated moments in the game happening and things like that, but you're the older guy. You're the more seasoned vet here. You should be handling this a little bit better than just going at this kid, blocking him on social media, and trying to bash him in a public setting. Like, it's kind of weird.
I mean, and not for nothing, Paolo was drafted first, and you were drafted where again? 27th? So
29th.
29th. So
first round.
And that was to one of the better organizations in sports, and they still didn't take you till 29. So that has to humble you a little bit. Paolo did go number 1. Let's show a little bit of respect here.
Yeah, and it really stems from the play that kind of, this is where it did go viral and got a lot of attention, where he got Paolo on a couple pump fakes and then he threw it off the backboard, caught in, and then dunk it. And it's kind of like you replay and you rewatch it. You kind of see my man did some. He did a little dirty stuff, man. He kind of nudged him, which is okay. The nudge is fine, but then you see that he really caught him off balance because he tripped him. He tripped Paolo. Granted, it's a good play. You got away with it. Great, amazing. But it's a sucker stuff where he's going over by the free throw line and he gives him a shoulder. If that's your boy, that's your boy. You can do that stuff. But you can tell that there was some ill intentions. And Paolo didn't do anything about it except, just told him to relax. And
and he dropped 47 and said, hold this. I'll still drop 47. Okay, you got one play. But then I'm looking at highlights and I see Paolo draining threes and doing 360 reverse dunks. So, I mean, obviously he got his too. So.
And let's not forget, it was an exhibition game, but when he threw off the backboard, Paolo actually got back. And if Paolo really wanted to try to either get back into play, block the shot, foul him, for whatever it may be, I think if that happens in a real game, either Paolo fouls him or he blocks a shot. He just can't let him go. It's an exhibition game. You're doing this for the fans. Again, Murray was taking it way too far. He was taking this way too seriously to be a fun game.
Yeah, I enjoy the narrative of it. Like we all fiend for that reason to create some type of hype around playing against a team. Previously, it was Kyle Kuzma. Previously, before that, it was Kyle Lowry. We didn't like the Raptors. We didn't like the Wizards because of Kyle Kuzma. Now it's we're circling Atlanta, right?
Yeah, and I actually liked Atlanta before this beef. I think we had a round table, and far not liking Atlanta. Let me clarify that. Liking Atlanta to stay in the playoff hunt and be one of the top 6 because I Murray's a decent player, but after this, I don't know, they might have issues because they're not going to beat Orlando. So
the surprising part about all of it is that he's telling Paolo to stay humble, right? And it's like this man is doing everything other than being humble. It's not just against Paolo, We saw the moves where he's hitting players across the head with the basketball. We're seeing that not once but twice. And you're giving somewhat of an advice. So first and foremost, you're 25 years old and you're unfollowing someone that you've known for a really long time on social media because of whatever. From I listen, a lot of things can be said in a basketball game that we may not catch. But from the looks of it, Paolo wasn't saying a whole bunch. Like there was no antics, there was no level of smack talking that we saw from Murray and from the team. So I just think that it's weird. Like you can tell that it's a little jealousy on the side. I understand it. Could be because of again
It's
they're
definitely
from the
the
same
Seattle
area.
thing. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely the
100%.
Seattle thing. But again, he's kind of already lost that battle too. Like if you're not the king of Seattle by 25, and there's this 19-year-old kid coming in who's the number one
That's
pick,
it.
dropping 50 points already, you're in some serious trouble. So you know he might have already lost that battle too. But maybe that's why he was doing what he was doing. Who knows?
So circle Orlando versus Atlanta. I'm sure that's going to be a definitely a game to watch. Let me make sure I get tickets to that game. Can't miss it. Got to watch it live. All right. So now transitioning to Jonathan Isaac. So Jonathan Isaac recently says that he sees a light at the end of the tunnel now. He also posted a picture dunking, not wearing a knee brace, not wearing ankle braces. What are your thoughts on that? He actually commented on, and I'm sorry that I can't remember who ended up writing a comment on the picture that he posted, but he responded back, pretty much kind of laughing at it in a sense. Like, what are your thoughts from it? Do you honestly believe that the notion of him posting a picture of him dunking, not wearing a knee brace, means that Jonathan Isaac is healthy? He's ready to go. Training camp. I'll be there. Start of the NBA season. We're golden. What do you think, Al?
It's got to be right. I mean, we've talked about it before. As bad as his injury was, it should not be taking 2 years to heal. Part of me still really believes that Jeff and John decided last season, hey, you probably can come back at the All-Star break, maybe a little bit earlier, but why do it? We're tanking. We wanna really do this thing right. Sit out the rest of the offseason and kind of just be really, really ready next season. So to answer your question, I do think that he is ready. I mean, there's no reason why he wouldn't be. His setback that he suffered apparently was not that major, and even then, by the time training camp starts, he would have had 6 months to recover from that setback. So if you ask me, I would put my money on him being ready by training camp. However, that does not mean that he's going to be starting, opening night, anything like that. I think it just simply means he'll be in the rotation. He'll be kind of slowly being transitioned back into getting minutes. But again, there should be no way JI is not ready by training camp and preseason.
For me, in the Magic community, I probably am one of the people that have the lowest stock in JI, unfortunately. Do I hope he's ready when the season starts? Yeah, I hope. Am I betting any money on it? No. Far as the picture, you can show me better than you can tell me. So I'm hopeful, but I like Al think he'll be coming in slow. He'll probably be on minutes restriction till at least
Yep.
Christmas. Um, we're hopeful, right? I've seen some things online that, you know, maybe Isaac comes in and starts over Franz and starts over Paolo. Slow down. Uh, that's not going to happen. Sorry to burst anybody's bubble. Um, but I'm hopeful. But I'm like I said, I'm low on it for sure. I just don't believe when you watch somebody like Clay Thompson come back from an injury, look like he looked, and to expect Isaac to look better than that, I think you're setting yourself up. So I'm hopeful, um, but we'll see. Wait and see approach for me.
I think that a lot of people are the same, Dylan, in terms of not having a whole lot of stock in Jonathan Isaac. I understand the reason why. 2 years away from the basketball game is a very, very long time. I get that the outside of basketball is also a addition to why people don't feel as high on Jonathan Isaac. But for a while, Jonathan Isaac was our prized possession. He was the person that was supposed to take us to the promised land. And I think that part of the reason why we kind of shed away from it is because we got Franz Wagner that's really, blown things out of the water. Is the fact that now we have Paolo, and now we're starting to see that, listen, Jonathan, if it don't work out, we're okay. Before we were stressing out. Now we're fine. At the same time, we also need to remember that Jonathan Isaac was that dude. On the defensive end, he was definitely easily one of the best defensive players. When it came to anything on the defensive end, you understood and you knew that he was your anchor. You were confident that he was able to guard the Giannis's in some capacity, the LeBrons in some capacities, the bigger players, the KDs, that you really didn't have any other tool on your roster that could do that at the level that he's able to. I hope that guy is still in there somewhere. And what makes Jonathan Isaac so unique is the fact that, all right, if there's not enough space for him at the 4, let's try him at the 5. Let's try him at the 3. There's versatility there that you can really, plug and play. And I think that a lot of people right now are too hung up on, who's going to be the starting lineup. And I think that in the very beginning, our starting lineup is going to look a lot different than halfway through the year or towards the end of the season, where we really get a gauge to see of what direction the Magic are really going to, based on records, based on health, based on the trajectory of the team.
I agree.
You're right there. I think he'll definitely be the biggest X factor on the team.
Easy.
Now, where the team is, I think in December and January, I think that's yet to be determined. I think right now, because we're in August, of course, hopes are high, but I think there's a lot of potholes on that road to the play-in that where it could go either way. We could be tanking again this year. Nobody wants to talk about it, and I get it. It's August. We shouldn't be talking about tanking, but it is a real possibility if some things don't go our way. And being Magic fans, they normally don't. So we'll see.
I will say though, if you think back to like the way that he looked, Ji, that is at the bubble, right? So those, unfortunately, it was only a couple of games. We couldn't really see much. But if you recall the excitement in Magic fans after that first game when he came back and he looked incredible. I think he dropped almost 20 points and in limited minutes too. And he was hitting threes, hitting mid-range.
Aggressive on the offensive side. Aggressive.
He legit looked like a baby KD. Like he had that, he looked so good on the offensive end. Add to that the fact that he's such a great defender. That's the exciting part. In my mind, also, I'm not counting on Ji. If he is back, if he is healthy, great. But to your point, Dylan, if he does come back and he plays anywhere close to that, our team automatically just takes a major leap this season coming up right now, just because this kid is so talented. And again, he's not going to start first. I really don't expect it to happen. But I will bring this up again. I brought it up before, and I thought in social media this has caught on a little bit. Come January, trade deadline season, Ji has looked amazing. What do you do with him? And my answer has always been, you put him at the 4, you slide down Banchero to the 3, Franz to the 2, and then you got to figure out at that point who's your point guard going forward in the starting lineup. Is it going to be Cole, Suggs, or Markel? But I think that would be the move if he is back 100% and he is killing it. You got to get him on the court in the starting lineup. But then the big dread of the debate comes in. Who's that point guard that you kind of run with for the next few years?
Right. Or so here's my thing. I'm not 100% sold on Franz being at the 2. I think it's a great experiment, but long-term wise, I think that Franz being at 3 is the best to maximize the player that you get in Franz Wagner. Question is, what do we do with that 2? Question is, what do we do with Jonathan Isaac? I could see a world where if we get back, if we get back Jonathan Isaac that we hope we get back 100% healthy, 100% back to who we think he can and will be, I could see a world where Maybe he takes over the five. Maybe we slide Wendell to the bench.
Ew.
Maybe I can see that happening
Ooh.
because here's my thing with the starting lineup. If the Magic are really trying to push for a play-in, I can see Gary Harris having that two spot. You need some veteran presence. I can see that happening. I still, and Dylan, I'm sure that you agree with me. I haven't lost faith in Jalen Suggs. I think that, last year was a very, very difficult year for him. Rookie, only played about 40 plus games. What if we see what we expect to see with Jalen Suggs and
If
he
we
fills
see
that
that,
second spot?
if we see
So
that, I think we're probably almost a lock to be in the plan. If Jalen Suggs plays like we all expect him to, and then you got a number one pick in Paolo, and on top of that, you get 50% of JI. Not even 100%, 50%. I think you have to basically lock the Magic into a play-in because Paolo is going to blow expectations if he is that guy away by himself. I got him getting us at least 6 or 7 more wins, and that's just Paolo. Now that's before you talk about Franz and Isaac and Suggs. So yeah, I think if all that comes together, I think you're definitely looking at a lock for the Magic to be in a play-in.
I do not care if Paulo is struggling. I do not care if he doesn't play up to the standards that we have for him. There's no way that you take him out of any starting lineup. He is your number four. That's it. Live and die with it.
No
But when it
question.
comes to Wendell, I'm not 100% sold that he is the permanent five. I love Wendell. No disrespect to Wendell. But if Jonathan Isaac could fill that fifth spot, I can see it. I can see it happening. I don't think it will happen. If that did happen, it won't be till later part of the season. And if that were the case, man, that second unit is going to be
A
ridiculous. It's going
problem.
to be nonstop battling from the first unit to the second unit. Damn, we got this dude coming back in. Damn, now we got this guy. This guy has foul trouble. No big deal. We'll add this person in. I think that it's just going to be a battle throughout the whole entire game. And I don't really think that teams are really prepared with the amount of talent and depth that this team could potentially bring.
And that's the nice thing, right? If we have everybody healthy, we don't even know what we have. That's the crazy thing. Like we see it on paper and it's like, this team could be unbelievable. Maybe one of the greatest turnarounds in NBA history if everything goes like we want. But Wendell WCJ off the bench, with this contract, that is definitely, I could see that happening because thankfully we locked him down on a friendly deal. But we just have to wait and see
If Jonathan Isaac is Jonathan Isaac,
if
we
Jonathan
need to
Isaac
highlight that,
is Isaac.
put it in caps. If Jonathan Isaac is Jonathan Isaac. All right, so now kind of moving into our injuries, Orlando Magic injuries. Man, it's amazing. We can't
Never
stop talking about
stops.
it.
Never stops.
Insane. So we know that the Wagner brothers were getting ready to play international basketball. Mo and Franz were going to play together and they were going to do work. Unfortunately, Mo Wagner did have an ankle injury that will make him miss the rest of Euro basketball this summer. With that being said, Franz did move forward with playing basketball, scored 23 points, hit a clutch three, and came away with the W in his first exhibition game. So great for Franz. Franz looked like Franz, 6'10" unicorn that is able to do it all, shoot the basketball, penetrate at 6'10", somehow get in between the middle. The dude was a baller. At the same time, like we know that Mo Wagner, when it comes to Euro basketball play, this dude turned into Haas. You remember Haas? Hustle, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Dude was a baller. How disappointed are you at the fact that we got these guys playing in meaningful basketball games, not associated with the Orlando Magic during this period, and they're playing international basketball, he ends up getting injured? Darling, I'm gonna give it to you first.
Yeah, it's disappointing for sure. You always want your guys healthy. Um, like I think somebody said maybe online or earlier, Thankfully, it was Mo and not Franz. I think the fan base would be a lot more in a panic if it was Franz. But obviously, we want Mo to make a quick recovery. Um, but I think he'll be okay. I don't think it's anything catastrophic. He should be ready to go for training camp. So that's the main thing. We want him ready when the games count.
Yeah, I think it's just unfortunate, right? You think about Magic basketball, and we're not even in September yet, and here we are talking about injuries. Uh, I will say though, you never want to hear about injuries. You never want to talk about any of your players getting injured. But man, I was nervous when I first read Wagner to miss exhibition game with ankle injury. I'm like, oh my God, Franz got hurt. So not for nothing, it was Mo, and he'll be fine.
Yeah,
He
he'll
will
be
be
fine.
fine. He will come back. He'll be ready for training camp. But I really want to see him play Euro basketball. As you said, Anthony, he is a baller. Did amazing a few years back when he played for Germany and looked like a different player. And then from that, carried it over to the Orlando Magic. And ever since then, he's been a consistent player, somebody you can trust to throw out there when someone's in foul trouble, someone's injured. So I think for the confidence alone, I would have liked to see him play for his team and represent his country, and also would have made things easier for France. Now all the attention goes to kind of him
Yep.
and the rest of the NBA talent on that roster, instead of saying, "Hey, we got to worry about Mo in the middle, and then France keeps cutting and hitting open threes." So we'll see. I'm excited to see how he does. It's unfortunate again the news and having to talk about injuries this early in the off season.
In
Hate it.
my opinion, it's a double-edged sword. On one side, you're looking at a player that is now going to get a little more responsibility, a little more of the burden, the pressure of taking the responsibility that Mo would have taken away from Franz. It would have been a little more balanced because you got Dennis Schroeder out there also. At the same time, it's like, all right, now you know that you're going to be a focal point offensively for that international team. And when it comes to international play, you're playing with way more pride. You're playing with way more confidence. Everything means a little bit more because you're playing for your country. And I think that on that side, man, whatever experience, whatever confidence this man is going to get, if you can kind of bring that into the season, you're telling me that this player is going to get even better as a sophomore than what we've already seen as a freshman. I will take that all day, as long as that it doesn't hurt him negatively, where he's putting too much pressure, or he overworks himself, becomes overwhelmed, or whatever case may be. I hope that his basketball play continues to grow during this time period, and then that kind of transitions into the training camp and into the season, because we know that he's going to be a key component. And I think that looking down the line, we know that this is going to be a player that people ain't going to want to mess with for sure.
No question.
All right, well, really good stuff. Dylan, we're going to go through some really quick questions for you. So this is our rapid fire section, and really we're going to throw out some questions so we can end this episode, and I want you to answer them as fast as you can. So really the first thing that comes to mind. Al, I'm going to send it to you if you want to ask those.
Yeah, so let's get it started. So Dylan, first thing here is favorite Magic player of all time.
T-Mac.
That was an
Favorite
easy
current
one.
player. Easy, right? Favorite current player on the team.
Jalen Suggs.
Gotcha. Number 3, most memorable moment as a Magic fan.
Most memorable moment. That had to be the 2009 finals. I went to all 3 games in the
Hey,
Amway, so it was an awesome week for me.
I like it. So favorite Magic team of all time. I would imagine it would be 09 too.
Yeah, it's definitely '09. My father passed away during that run, so it was a emotional time for me, basketball wise and family wise. So I really needed it back then.
Man, at least the team helped you a little bit there by making it to the finals and making things exciting, right?
Man, they helped a lot, man. I was 21 years old, and I rode those big shoulders of Dwight all the way. It was incredible.
I can't
Yeah.
even imagine.
All right, next to last one here. Over and under 26 and a half wins for the Magic next season. So if you were a betting man, would you bet over or under?
Oh, you got to go with the over. I mean, just on the talent alone, you got to figure if we're healthy, we're going to win 30 games just rolling the ball out there on the court. Um, and then, if everybody elevates their game, who knows where it goes. So definitely over.
And I kind of already feel like I know the answer to this, but Suggs or Cole, and then who ends up starting at that shooting guard position?
Suggs. And I love Cole. I don't want to, put that in the universe that I don't love Cole. I would never want to lose Cole. But I think Suggs, number one, the team has a lot more invested in him. He was a top 5 pick. He's a little bigger than Cole, and he plays defense, guys. I mean, we got to be honest. Cole struggles on the defensive side of the ball. So I think you add all those up. I think Jalen Suggs is going to get the nod there.
All right, I like it. Dylan, thank you so much for joining us. Really good episode. Went over a lot more than I thought that we were going to have for this episode. We're over here trying to really scavenge for Magic content. So luckily we had some stuff to go over. Really good stuff. Appreciate you guys for listening. As a wrap, we'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Magic fans. For all the latest Orlando Magic news and updates, follow us on Twitter at the OZone Pod and on Instagram at Orlando Magic HQ. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on all your favorite podcast listening platforms.